Hello and welcome to Bean's Budget Brewery. I'm your host Bean, and let's get into it. Today's deck is $5 Giants. Now, Giants is a tribe that had a lot of tribal support back in Lorwyn, and also got a lot of tribal support recently in Kaldheim. However, here's the thing. Giants just aren't a very competitive tribe. But that's even better for us because that means the cards are cheap, so let's see what these cards are. First up, we have our key tribal cards of the deck. Agar the Freezing Flame, and Calamity Bearer. Agar says that whenever a giant we control deals excess damage, we get to draw a card. This means that if our opponent chump blocks our creature, we get to draw a card. And just to make sure that we are always dealing way too much damage, we have Calamity Bearer, which says that whenever a giant deals damage, it deals double that much damage instead. However, here's the thing. It gets even better. I'm sure you've heard of board wipes, but what about one-sided board wipes? We've got Thundercloud Shaman and Battle of Frost and Fire. Both of these things deal damage to non-giant creatures, which is usually going to be enough to clear the board and allow you to attack for the win, using something like Tectonic Giant or Ravenous Giant. These guys are big giants and they deal damage. There's not much more than that. They're big giants and they deal damage. However, speaking of dealing damage, we need to deal with some of our opponent's bigger creatures, so we squash them. Or we stomp them. Okay, Stomp isn't really good at dealing with bigger creatures, but Bone Crush Giant's a really strong card. And Squash is flavorful. And then we have a Craven Giant because Bone Crusher is expensive. And speaking of expensive, topping out our curve, we have Prophetic Titan. Prophetic Titan enters the battlefield and either deals damage or draws us a card. And if we have a Calamity Bearer out, then we're going to be dealing 8 damage. If our opponent's at 8 life, then we just kill them. But now let's get to the most powerful card in the deck, and surprisingly that card is just Fire Diamond. Jumping to 4 mana on turn 3 really turns on our deck and it helps us accelerate. It's kind of like skipping a turn ahead in the game. And kind of funny, it allows us to turn on Delirium. I mean, it's not really useful. We don't need Delirium, but it's just kind of cute. I'd also recommend having 4 Shocks in sideboard because even after a board wipe, you can still burn your opponent with them. It's important to have cheap removal because, like, there's no 1-drops in this deck. Now, the original Stompy Tribal deck that I made for the core deck series was $1 Werewolves, but there are a couple of problems with this. 1, $1 Werewolves requires sleeves. 2, it's now no longer $1. And 3, it's nowhere near as strong as the other decks that I've showed so far. However, this one is. But onto the mana base, we're running 4 Terramorphic Expanse because we do not want to be drawing islands. We do not want to be drawing islands. We want to be drawing 1 island, and each Terramorphic Expanse is either an island or a mountain, and I would much rather have it land that enters tapped than to be locked out of the game because I drew too many islands. Lastly, a card that I did not put in my version, but you could certainly put in yours, is Glimpse the Cosmos. It gives you massive card selection and card advantage. It's just a great card. And that's the deck.